I refuse to keep waking my partner up to spend time with our family. Now, he realizes that his mother is toxic and has gone no contact with her, got a new job, and he's happier and a better father than ever. So I, 26F, and my partner, 28M, have 5 daughters, aged 7, 6, 4, 3, and 5 months. For a long time, there's been an issue with him getting up to help with the kids in the morning. He thinks he should be able to sleep in on his days off work, while I think he should get up when the kids and I do, or we should at least be alternating who has a lie-in. We've been seeing a therapist, who has mentioned he should be helping more in the mornings. Recently, we had a family trip planned to the zoo with both of our parents, our sisters, and their kids. Previously, when we've gone out for the day, I've needed to shake my partner awake several times, and he lies in bed while I get the kids ready. He'll finally get up 5 minutes before we need to leave, as I shout at him that I'm getting in the car. I've mentioned to him that this is very frustrating, as it's a lot of work getting the kids ready to go out, and it's not fair to leave it up to me while he lies in bed. He'd apologize and promise that the next time he'd get up and help. The night before the zoo trip, I told him I'd need him to be awake at 6:30 a.m., so we could get everyone ready to leave by 8 a.m. He said he'd set an alarm and we went to bed. My alarm went off at 6:30 a.m. and I got up, while my partner kept sleeping. I decided I wasn't going to wake him this time and continued getting the kids ready. At 8 a.m., he was still sleeping, so I loaded the kids in the car and we set off. We arrived at the zoo at 9:30 a.m., and his family asked where he was. I mentioned he was still in bed and chose not to come. At 10:15 a.m., I got a phone call from him asking where everyone was. I said we went to the zoo as planned, and I waited for him to get up but he never did. He got really mad and told me that I should have woken him up like I always do, and said that I caused him to miss the trip. He then called his mom and complained to her, who yelled at me in the middle of the zoo that I was being unfair and that I should have given him a shake to let him know he needed to get up, and that I was about to leave. My mother jumped in and said it wasn't my responsibility to get him out of bed, and that he needed to take responsibility for himself. A few more words were exchanged and his family stalked off for the rest of the trip. I had a blast with my kids, parents, sister, and nephews. When we got home, my partner started talking to me again about how I should have woken him up. He wasn't always like this. When the oldest two were little, he was always up with them. He would even get up before everyone else to cook breakfast before going to work. We had to move in with his parents at one point, and that's when things started to change. His family is incredibly misogynistic. His dad works then comes home, watches TV, and drinks beer, while his mom does everything else, including getting him up for work, etc. These beliefs seem to have rubbed off on him, and his mom is very quick to tell him something is the woman's job. He's seeing a therapist independently who has suggested some form of depression. He's generally pretty good otherwise. He will help with dinner, cleaning, putting the kids to bed, etc. He's not entirely useless. Getting out of bed in the morning is a long-standing issue, though. He had a vasectomy after baby number 4, which turned out to be incomplete. I then had a hysterectomy. Update 1. The morning after this incident, my partner got out of bed when the kids did and took the older girls out for breakfast. Later, I asked him if he'd be willing to read my thoughts and he agreed. He was very subdued afterward, and didn't say much except to agree that he was in the wrong. He took off work the next day to see his GP, and was started on antidepressants. We had a long talk. He was ashamed of how he was acting, and to hear people comparing him to a child. He cried when he realized how much he was letting everyone down, especially his daughters, who will grow up thinking this is normal behavior. He confirmed that this all started when we lived with his parents a few years back. He left home at 17 to get away from his mother, and she told him he'd fail as men need a woman to look after them. He felt like a failure, so it was easy for his mother to feed him other ideas, and she would also manipulate things I did to look like I thought he was incompetent as a person. For example, I'd tell him to relax and I'd handle the dishes, and his mother twisted it into me thinking he was incompetent. So she said he should just stop helping at all. He'd wake up feeling useless, and she managed to convince him that he was unhappy because I wasn't taking care of him the way a wife should. He decided to go no contact with her, which didn't go well. She cried and told him he was a horrible son for abandoning his mother, and that I was trying to control him by forcing him to do it. He blocked her, but she just used different numbers to continue calling him. After a week or so, he ended up changing his number, and we haven't heard from his family since. He brought up that he was unhappy at work as it wasn't stimulating enough, but he felt like he couldn't leave. I offered to pick up some part-time work but he said no. He talked to his boss, took some time off, and eventually quit. He spoke to my dad who used some connections and got him a good job at his company. The new job is a primarily work-from-home position, so he is able to help with the girls more and has more free time. He can take the girls to school and watch them play while he works, which they all enjoy. Before he started the new job, he booked a trip for us to go to the snow for a week. We had a blast, and it was lovely to see him relaxed and happy and enjoying our girls and life. He's promised to be more honest about how he's feeling and our relationship has improved immensely.